Yeah, so Marco is making developer tooling feel easy. Let me see if I can continue on the same note. I'm not sure. Yeah, thank everyone. Please come say hi after the talk if you haven't yet. But first, I want to give a shout out to my colleague Svat, who was supposed to be here today and couldn't make it because of some visas documents, and he was really hoping to be here, and I hope he can make it next year. So yeah, and you'll have a chance to meet him. But it's a nice weather, folks. I'm kind of surprised, pleasantly surprised about this weather for October, but I had a different feeling back in San Francisco, where I'm now based. The same weather there feels very, very strange. To be honest, I went to the beach and the sand was warm. It's not supposed to be warm at all. But I just checked it. It's gonna be back to normal tomorrow. So back to 60, 70. But folks, before we begin, let's do this. I hope it works. I'm not sure. So there's this QR code. If you can try using it and think about this logo, if you recognize it, but don't enter anything yet. So just open the page, fill out the option, and don't send it yet. I hope it works. I don't know. So this is the logo again. We're trying to guess what it means. We're using this website, Paul Everywhere. It's a very old Y Combinator company built with Rails and powered by something called AnyCable that we're going to be talking about today. So let's see. All right, so now you can send your responses in. Nice. HashRocket, wow. So what's going on here? We're all connecting to some server, AnyCable server, right now. It's interesting. So there's no right. Oh, there is a right answer. I can see it. All right. Okay, that's fun. Transformers. By the way, it has something, right? It's like some robots. All right. What do you think the right answer is? Yeah, I asked my Twitter, and very few people guessed right. This is the logo of WebSockets. Yeah, that's WebSocket. So WebSocket is the main difference between WebSockets and HTTP is just that there's request, response, and then the connection stays open. It's not closed. And the EOS connection can be kind of shut down on either side of this socket, two-way socket. But essentially, it stays open. It stays kind of waiting for what's more. Yeah, what's more is you guys have to share, and that's why WebSockets are perfect for real time, because you get updates, you get messages as soon as they are, as soon as you can, as soon as they're sent. And WebSockets were introduced in 2011, and if we look at the kind of evolution of different real-time tools, we see something like a Cambrian explosion after WebSockets were introduced. And there's a bunch of stuff here. And we're going to talk about a few of those, basically this one. And this is a kind of cool story to share for me, because it's something that I've been going through, right? This was a big part of my life the last few years. And our journey with Vladimir Dementiev. So we met at Evil Martians back in 2017. He was a backend engineer. I joined as an account manager. And today he's the head of backend. I'm the CEO. And I hope you know something about the company. Maybe you've used some of our open source. Let me know if you did. So some hands. Yeah. Oh, nice. All right. Thanks, guys. So we're building a lot of open source, and our mission is to support startups, growing companies building with Rails. Not just Rails, but this is our big focus. And if you have problems, hard problems, that we'd love to solve them, help you solve them. So the story actually begins in 2015, when Rails introduced kind of first-party support for WebSockets. As you all know, it's called AnyCable. And it was one of the first frameworks that introduced this. Of course, Phoenix was probably the first, but this is a kind of real-time first framework. And now Rails said, look, build real-time features with Rails. The problem was in 2015, Ruby was kind of not the best tool for that. Yeah, and it was not a no-brainer. Vova introduced basically the same thing written in Go. It's AnyCable originally was kind of very, very similar to ActionCable, but written in Go. And AnyCable used, of course, the same protocol, was a drop-in replacement, was open source, MIT licensed, and also used Redis. Don't pay too much attention to this. It's maybe a little bit too complicated. Just remember this. When you're running, originally, the story was you're running Rails application, and then you run 3 additional components. Redis, usually you had Redis anyways with Rails, but you also run WebSocket server, Golang server, and then you also run something called Rails in RPC mode, let's say. So this was a special instance of Rails used by AnyCable. So it was a bit complicated, but it had 10 times less memory usage, and it was much more truly real-time at scale. So when you had like a few thousand connections, ActionCable was already not performing like on sub-second latency, and AnyCable kept sub-second latency. It aged pretty well. Yeah, kind of ActionCable says build real-time features, chats, notifications, all this stuff inside your own framework, and AnyCable said, well, and scale them, right? But something was missing. Apparently COVID was missing for some reason. Because what happened is, after the pandemic, it's just an illustration, but this company, Tito, that many of you know, because many tech conferences send tickets through Tito, it's including this one. So Tito is a Rails company, a very respected application. Of course, when the pandemic started and all the offline events were canceled, they had to think of kind of something else, and they invented a virtual events platform, Vito. Tito and Vito. And Vito was basically an events platform that had a video stream, but then a bunch of real-time updates, real-time content updates, notifications, and chat. So this was all real-time and was originally using ActionCable, and of course they had to scale it. They reached out for help setting up AnyCable. And this is what we saw happening with many, many other tools that reached for collaboration in kind of digital products during pandemic. I'm sorry. And yeah, so what we were doing, we were kind of collecting feedback on GitHub. We were consulting a bunch of very different companies reached out for consulting around AnyCable, IDEs, virtual events platform, kind of GPS navigation product, edtech product, different things. And finally, this is why we saw, okay, there's demand for AnyCable, and we released version 1.0. We also learned something about scaling WebSockets, which we kind of didn't originally expect to learn. We didn't know about that. How many of you recognize the picture on the right? Weird. Okay. Don't tell anybody. Let's pretend we don't, right? Well, it's a metaphor that I'm using to describe this situation. You remember when you had a phone line and you had you're making like a normal phone call is like an HTTP request. It's like you call, you get your information, you hang up, right? But when we have a dial-up modem that enabled us in the early days to connect to the internet, we wanted to be using this line for hours. And this is what the kind of persistent connection through WebSocket feels like to the server. So imagine your phone is your server, and basically what ends up happening is that WebSockets kind of consume all the resources, and nothing is left for HTTP. And we saw this happening for our clients, and basically the conclusion was, yes, there has to be WebSocket requests need to be serviced and scaled independently from HTTP requests. This is it turned out to be a benefit of the architecture where AnyCable stands independent and kind of can scale independently of Rails. And yeah, I still remember the day when we got fiber. Yeah, people could finally reach us at home on our phone. So that's what we learned. We also learned that a bunch of tooling was missing. We built a kind of load testing tooling for WebSockets and snare-based testing. We learned that people wanted integration with Apollo GraphQL subscriptions, fallbacks for it's actually fallbacks to long pole, and this is needed for private networks that are still kind of not friendly to WebSockets. I didn't know it exists, but yeah, and then kind of some voice apps. So we decided that it looks like we can build a real product here, and we were passionate about building an open source, but we also wanted to kind of make it sustainable, keep it sustainable, and we decided we're gonna have two versions. One is open source, MIT, and the other is commercial and paid. So the one on the left is a communal garden. This is how we sort of think about open source. It's available to everybody. Everybody is welcome to contribute. Everybody is welcome to use it however they like. But then if a company wants a big company wants to use this product, they essentially want to have a professional farm, which is a bit different, something else. So this is how we think about our Pro version, AnyCable Pro. The AnyCable Pro has only the features that are only needed by enterprises. So it's stuff in cluster mode, stuff related to those private networks, and some developer tooling as well. So we launched AnyCable Pro in 2021. It had even more memory efficiency, binary compression algorithms, Apollo GraphQL integration. But we kept very, very simple. We didn't almost build any kind of automation around the product. So we didn't have a license server. We didn't have any, to be honest, we didn't build an app to sell it. We still use GitHub Container Registry to distribute the Pro. We had a flat price and just used Typeform for signups. That's it. And again, this is still just two people having full-time jobs at Evil Martians as a head of backend and CEO. So kind of a little bit busy. So Callbell EU was our first customer. It's a French company. They do support through different inboxes, like WhatsApp, Messenger, Telegram, and they wanted really instant chat experience. And how can I explain? Like when Rails World, the first conference, you remember it was sold out. I got an extra ticket. I gave it to the CTO of Callbell. That's how much I love them. Yeah. So, and by the way, this was our experience with many paying customers. It was just pure love, appreciation, support, feedback. I don't know why. Of course, it's like supposed to be an open source, but I think people who used our Pro version valued it maybe even more than people who used open source. And the types of relationship we have with them are just for some reason deeper and more profound, often. So we released the Pro version, then we released the client library, and we built something for Hotwire, because Hotwire was out. And we wanted something extra for Hotwire, and we realized if people only use Hotwire, there's no need for RPC. We can just use kind of JWT tokens for owls and basically simplify the architecture a lot. And this is what we did for Hotwire. So just 2 components are left. Spoiler, it's now available for non-Hotwire cases as well. So the year ended, we had 6 paying customers, not too many. And we also got some consulting revenue. But it didn't feel like a blast, it didn't feel like a huge win. And we decided next year we didn't really have, an opportunity to focus on the product too much, but we did some marketing. So Volvo recorded a bunch of screencasts. We started a newsletter. By the way, you can sign up on our blog. It's a pretty cool newsletter about real time. And also, he was doing this talk at RailsConf, and what turns out is, thanks. So, turns out on Basecamp, if you have a interruption in connectivity, and there's some messages being sent, comments, while you're offline, then you go back online, what do you think you're going to receive? So this is a new message that is sent while you're online. Basically, you only getting the new one. You're missing the messages that were posted while you were offline. And this is why, because WebSockets are not giving you delivery guarantees, of course, but also AnyCable is not. It's not improving on that, let's say. So Volvo was. We basically discovered that there are, in reality, many problems with connectivity and with building really kind of reliable real-time features. If you want to make them reliable, they are much harder. And it's not just about you think, how many times am I kind of going offline, online? Well, if you look closely enough on real-time scale, you're actually going offline pretty frequently. This is a glass half full, right? You look at it and you think, it's so solid. Then you look closely, and it's made of emptiness. Okay. Well, inside items. Well, real-time connectivity is a bit better, but it's very flaky. So this is how the year ended. We doubled the customers, and we reached $1 million consulting revenue. So we started thinking, okay, As a consultant revenue, AnyCable kind of makes sense. But as a product, it's still not there. So we decided marketing is not enough, and we're gonna be building more features for AnyCable. And first thing we built was this reliable WebSockets inside AnyCable. So now, when you're using AnyCable on the server and on the client, so our extended client version, extended version of ActionCable client, which is AnyCable client, then you have exactly once delivery guarantees on WebSockets. And also, what's important, if you have persistent connections and you're redeploying your WebSocket server, AnyCable will restore those sessions, and so you don't have to reconnect. So this is a major kind of reliability feature as well. So we now recommend AnyCable not just as a performance boost, but as a kind of reliability boost for features. So it's if you're serious about real-time features, consider using it. We migrated off of Redis, so you don't have to use it now. We're using Nats. Originally, we built it for Fly.io because they cannot kind of use Redis, but now you can use embedded Nats instead of Redis everywhere. There are some new use cases for AnyCable coming up every year or so, like this one. This is a electric vehicles charging stations. So apparently, there are many Rails-based EV companies, EV charging companies around the world. And maybe one EV company is using Rails. I mean, Tesla. I'm not sure. I just heard. And so we basically, somebody asked us to support the protocol that the EV station is using to send data to in our case, to Rails application that is operating the station. And we supported it, and now we have kind of the largest Malaysia's EV charging company using us, and now the company from the UK is also reached out. This is an interesting kind of market. A bunch of folks are building this. It's a voice apps with where AnyCable is extended. And we have an example, an article of how you can extend AnyCable with other modules on the Go side to do more processing. If you want to kind of understand, for example, the content of the speech, in Twilio media streams or something like that. And this is how we got AnyCable, one of probably the biggest of our customers, Doximity, which is part of Rails Foundation and pretty huge company. So they use it for this. For this case, AnyCable now supports server-sent events because of LLMs, but because we had to use that, but you can now kind of create event channel with AnyCable. And this is how last year ended. We again doubled ARR and again had 1 million consultant revenue, which was kind of nice. But this year we decided, okay, let's do more. And you see, we decided we're going to go beyond Ruby on Rails. We're going to do a universal PubSub, and we're going to do Managed AnyCable. So beyond Ruby on Rails, we started with this kind of AnyCable for serverless JavaScript, versatile template. Yeah, that's what we tried. Simplified PubSub, we said, okay, we're going to offer a very simple architecture for AnyCable that is just a WebSocket server in PubSub mode, very simple, very kind of framework agnostic. But it's a little kind of less efficient and less performant than the original AnyCable with RPC. But for many apps, the kind of it's still better to have a simpler architecture while still having much better performance than AnyCable or any other stuff. And we introduced whispers, which are messages from client to client that server doesn't care about. For example, cursors. Live cursors is, of course, your server doesn't care about them, right? So you just want to send them from client to client. This was, I recorded it during our all hands. I don't know why people could do this, but it's not sped up. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're nervous for some reason. So, okay, Managed AnyCable. This was our final kind of big, I don't know, dream for some, fear for somebody else. Again, this is just, we don't even have a full-time engineer. So how do we build a managed service? We needed the most pragmatic, the most efficient way of doing this. What do you think it is? Yep, this is Rails, of course. So this is the stack we used. SQLite, Flex, Fly.io, Vite, Action Policy, and Avo. And we built a managed service in alpha. We are not billing for it yet. But basically, you can spin up instances of AnyCable and use them in your, let's say, staging environment. Yeah. That's what we started experimenting with. And we introduced telemetry in open source. There is an option to opt out of telemetry, but I think it's very important for products like us that are open source and commercial to still have telemetry in open source to understand. For us, it's important to understand how many big customers we have in open source in relation to Pro. And that's what we are seeing. So this is where we are. We're kind of on track to double again our ARR. And we're seeing finally more new free trials this year, hopefully because of everything we've released. And we got a bunch of big companies. Not all of them I can name yet, but yeah, Doximity ClickFunnels are some of the large Rails applications, and there are more. We are working with them to turn those stories into case studies. And yeah, this is what we have, right? We're solving a real problem for really big use cases, and we noticed that new use cases keep coming up. And we solved this problem on the backend side, but with like reliability and scalability and all of that. But many things are missing, and I think the main thing, and I wonder if you have ideas, let me know after this, what you feel is missing. Well, so far we think the number one is just the front-end side of things. We're planning this nice kind of UI, collaboration UI kit for different front-end technologies, React, non-React. Makes it a bit harder, but yeah, we'll see. Because we see people implementing those things like presence, cursors, collaborative editing, but they have to build it themselves, and we want to make it simple, sort of out of the box as much as possible. We still need to make AnyCable much simpler. I gotta say, it is simplified already, but you won't tell it by reading the docs yet. Just because the docs were an accumulation of a lot of stuff that was going on and kind of collected through over the years. So we're gonna simplify that. And finally, yeah, future transports. That's what we're also thinking about. We want to AnyCable to kind of encapsulate those new things, like web transport or whatever comes next. And my last remark would be, about my own journey. If you remember, I joined Evil Martians as an account manager, and I acted as a kind of like a assistant manager at AnyCable, just kind of somebody helping Vova. And over those years, we became real co-founders here. In practical terms, it means we collaborate and contribute equally to the strategy. And it helped me a lot to connect with many Rails companies and with the Ruby community, which I'm grateful for. And I was thinking what helped most. Because if you think of this, I had like a huge imposter syndrome originally, and like, let's say, a lot of insecurities. I realized what helped is like one person who trusted me like nobody else, completely. Yeah. And this is Vova, but also our company and Ruby community. So I had so much trust and support on this journey. Well, it wasn't like 100% of time, but mostly. So this is how we built it, and I'm gonna say these are the foundations of AnyCable, because there is a lot more for us to do, and I'm super excited about this. This is how you can find me. Please share any feedback, any suggestions for Evil Martians, AnyCable. And the link on top is to sign up for the San Francisco Ruby meetup that I'm running, in the Bay Area, and there's one happening this week. So I hope to see some of you there. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I gotta say the managed service is not really requiring too much of our time yet. Why? We're not seeing huge use cases because it's an alpha, and we say it's an alpha, and we say it everywhere. Yeah. So what we're doing, we are using Fly's API to spin up a new instance for every customer. So it's like very simple to manage, if you think about it. Yeah. But we're still very much spending much more time on Evil Martians than on AnyCable, both of us. And yeah, that's how it is, because yeah. But hoping to dedicate more time to AnyCable. So. But yeah, the team also helps though. The team helps. So we have somebody who's supporting Helm charts, somebody who's, of course, like we're making like $1 million consulting revenue. This means this is not me and Vova doing consulting projects mostly. It's other teammates who know how to set up, scale AnyCable, how to build with AnyCable. So yeah, it's a lot of people involved. Yeah, many other people. Right? Yeah, thank you.